watched a video by Hank Green recently, and he's always been in the periphery of my internet content diet, but I can't remember the last time I watched a full video of his. I'm sorry to say it might have been a TikTok where he was commentating a simulation of an army of whales fighting an army of ostriches. But anyway, the video I was watching was part of a vlog series that's like a call and response journal entry sort of thing between him and his brother. They're musing about stuff in the zeitgeist, but it's with a more intellectual or philosophic bent to it. And that was really validating because that's exactly what I want to do with my blog, and I wasn't sure if there was a niche for it. I'm still dubious that there's a market for it unless you have an inbuilt audience. I know Hank has spent years and through many successful projects has built up a following that would probably be interested in anything he wants to opine on, but deservedly so because he's a very well-spoken and entertaining educator. But that video has inspired me to try and record this essay, despite it being quite scary. The creators I usually watch, they have a very natural charisma and they've had 10 plus years in front of the camera, and it's hard for me to let go of that comparison. But that video reminded me that it's extra compelling to be able to see the person behind the words and to hear it come from them. It made me really want to take the plunge. So walk with me if you want to. This novice's first attempt at I'm gonna call it a mini lecture. I think the term video essay is having a bit of an identity crisis, at least on YouTube. So I first want to bring to mind the image of a jester. He's a man on the inside. He's almost like a double agent. His humor and his self-deprecation is very disarming, and he can slip self-awareness right past the ego of his target. And satire is the inheritor of that tradition. I've been going back and watching comedy that I used to watch as a kid that my dad subjected me to. People like the Snuthers Brothers and Stan Freberg. And I just realized that it's an art form that we need now way more than ever before. So algorithmic curation is a really insidious form of censorship. Think about like 5 years ago, if you were trying to find an old, obscure TV show that you only had scraps of memory of. If you could just find a few of the right keywords and put them into YouTube, you could probably find what you were looking for. And that's the power of aggregated content. It just takes one person in the whole world who thought to archive that media and a search engine that can intuit what you're looking for based on the collective search history of all its users. And something like that, when built with utility in mind, is one of the most powerful tools of media preservation and public access to it. But try doing something like that now. In my experience, I can usually find what I'm looking for, but I really gotta fight for it. And that's when I'm searching for a specific video. If I just put a topic or an idea into YouTube, it's showing me what Google wants me to see. And it's always been that way, but I think Google has gone more and more mask off and saying, I know what you want to see more than you do. And because of that, millions and millions of videos are becoming, in effect, lost media because they're settling to the bottom of this giant ocean of content. And it's happening in a way that exactly benefits Google and by proxy the powers that be above it that are pulling the strings. So part of the solution is going to be developing alternative platforms, but we really got to reckon with the unfathomable scale that YouTube is operating on at this point. Even 10 or 12 years ago, I had the idea that YouTube might at some point become a public service just because the monopoly it has on digital media is absurd. The convenience that Google has given us through a market-leading search engine and a ubiquitous video sharing platform, us little frogs weren't enjoying the hot tub, not realizing that it was actually a pot on the stove. This is where satire comes in. So we can't beat them at their own game, not yet at least, but we can become double agents of sorts. Comedy is the bread and butter of a lot of these social media sites, and satire, when done correctly, is stealthy and piercing. I'm not just talking about political messages. It can even be fighting the more toxic parts of our culture that have emerged recently, like this overt intolerance and tribalism. Bo Burnham was pretty self-flagellating in his song Comedy on the special Inside, but I just think we really need intelligent, introspective, well-meaning satirists more so than we ever have before. Getting comedians like Bo Burnham to be disillusioned is ideal for those who want complete social control because they know too well the power of a jester in front of an unsuspecting audience.
You can tell them anything if you just make it funny, make it rhyme. And if they still don't understand you, then you will run it one more time.
So I'll put a few links down below. One of them is from a comedian, Stan Freberg, and he's talking about satire. He was a comedian in the 1950s and he worked a lot in radio, and he also did comedy music. There's also one other video about the Smothers Brothers. You might know them from this Vine.
But the yo-yo master did not answer. He just kept on yoing.
Most of what they did was really playful satire of the folk music genre, but they did get in a bit of hot water for their political opinions. I also wanted to link two of my favorite YouTubers. They're Ro Ramden and CJ the X. They're not doing pure comedy, but they're doing something really unique and really artistic, and there's definitely comedy in there, and it's all centered around philosophical introspection from kind of a Gen Z artsy fartsy lens. So if that's your bag, check them out. I really recommend it. I have a written version of this video on my blog and all of the other essays I've written recently, so check those out if you're interested, and I'll see you next time.